Alright everyone, we start off today talking about the WEF, that is the World Economic Forum. It's like yesteryear it was the Open Society people and Soros, now it's Klaus Schwab and the WEF that mainly they go out there and they look creepy and say creepy shit. Pro-globalism, in other words pro-socialism, and communism, same thing basically. The WEF has attempted to Stalinize, to disappear an article on their website. This was noticed by multiple people. But the internet is forever. Of course, I ran it through the archive. It was already archived on the Wayback Machine, but as we've seen, the Wayback Machine is constantly being pressured. Archive.org is under a lot of pressure by the globalists to scrub material as well from the archives, often without any particular reason. And so if you do have to archive something through there, you should definitely subsequently run it through a different archive, either archive.today or archive.st. Those are used interchangeably at this point by me. Sometimes they get overloaded, especially in the wake of the Hunter Biden stuff. But they had a piece, a Fluff piece, written by the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, actually, with regards to the transformative change that we're going to take in our country. And this is how we're going to make Sri Lanka rich by 2025. Instead, Sri Lanka has suffered a complete collapse. There is no fuel. There's barely any food. The farmers are all upset. People have effectively destroyed the government there. Sri Lanka has effectively collapsed into a non-state entity at this point. This is prefaced on globalism and socialism. The Sri Lankan government, like many interventionist regimes does, took out an enormous amount of debt, speculating about the growth of the economy. This is exactly the same thing as which happened in Venezuela. An economy has quite a few people in it that are poor, etc., etc. You want to uplift their quality of life. You've got a cash crop or a growing economy. So you take out loans from some globalistic entity, or you could take it from the Eastern Bloc, from BRICS, from China. You can take it from the IMF, you can get loans maybe from the US on taxpayer dole, and you invest, and you quickly uplift the people of your country into a better position. All of a sudden, people that had dirt-floored houses, they have microwaves and shit. The problem is that government speculation often comes attendant with the issue of the economy changing rapidly. In Sri Lanka's case, the attempted transformation was to create partially a tourist economy and partially a green economy. That is, getting away from chemical farming. Sri Lanka has a lot of agricultural output. They started going fully organic, and the Sri Lankan government invested heavily in this, taking out enormous amounts of debt, I believe many times the actual GDP. The idea was that after you go through this Pol Pot-esque peasant transformation, by buying cheap organic fertilizers from China, the Green New Deal shit, your economy gets better. Oh, the overhead's lower, and they're not going to fuck over, our country for debt and stuff because, these commies over there are so generous. They're totally not itching to reclaim what's theirs and colonize our country or anything. Sri Lanka engaged in heavy centralization, in socialism. It is a fixture of socialism, debt spending of that kind, in heavy-handed Green New Deal on steroids policy. And now the economy has collapsed. And part of it was also lockdown related. The lockdownerism that was championed by the globalists too has wrecked multiple economies around the world. Governments are swiftly acting to try to capitalize upon people's misery to extend their power further. That's why you have the protests here in the Netherlands. It's why you had the trucker protests in Canada. It's why you have mass protests breaking out now in Italy and Poland and in other countries. Sri Lanka has collapsed. The Prime Minister made the case that their policies would make the country rich. It's exactly identical to Venezuela. The government says, look, we have this rapid growth, this rapid output, and we can win votes, effectively, if you have any voting system at all, this matters, by simply giving people microwave ovens, by simply giving people a better quality of life. So we'll speculate. We'll take out 5-10 times our GDP, and this will allow us to inject it into the economy, thus causing other secondary economic problems, by the way, and invest in people. We'll subsidize everything, and pretty soon people will be getting smartphones and shit. We'll be a first world country, just like the other developed nations that didn't do this because it fails repeatedly. the Sri Lankan Prime Minister, who I believe I think he fled the country successfully. I think it's the president was prevented from leaving the other day by airport security. Can't remember which one is which. It's kind of funny to have two chief executives in a country. It's sort of an old world theme that the United States and other Western nations don't typically have. Anyway, wrote an article saying, here's our plan. Laying it out line by line, right in accordance with the WEF apparently, because it was literally posted on the World Economic Forum's website. Until now. Now it's been deleted, it's been scrubbed. Well, the archive is still there. It's rather telling that you decided to do this. It's sort of like, what was it, Vox or something? Before Venezuela collapsed, I remember a lot of leftoids made fluff pieces about Venezuela's economic miracle. And some of them are still, for some reason, listened to as economic or socio-political analysts today. Well, Chavez miracle, he took out a huge amount of debt, but we're at peak oil, so it doesn't really matter. That was the whole sum and substance of that problem. And now people's infant mortality is down, the lifespan is increasing. Oh shit, we fucked the economy up. Time to quietly delete those articles off of the internet where we praised the economic proposals that were being made there. The fact is this is the cold hard fact. Though good sounding, we're going to subsidize things, we're going to help people, the music plays forever, don't worry about debt load thing never works. It has never worked in the history of mankind. What happens is that these governments find themselves taking out more and more credit lines, if possible, in order to continuously ingratiate themselves to the population if there is a democratic or even marginally democratic system available for them to get votes through. If there isn't such a system, they're still going to centrally invest. They'll just embezzle even more of the money off into their mansions and so forth. So while you say that it's important to save the world by organic farming, without giving the farmers the ability to do so through any form of counsel, through any form of means testing for the product that you're importing to fertilize the crops with, because the Chinese product is shit, basically. Instead of doing that, you simply force them to do the organic farming thing. Tell them, well, you're farmers. You know how to grow turnips and shit like that. What the fuck's the problem? Yeah, just completely overhaul the way that you've been farming for the last 1,000 years. 100 years. And, go back to the Stone Age. This won't cause any economic issues. Meanwhile, the debt accrues, and eventually you have to start making those debt payments. And some of these governments clearly are run by economists. They tend to be leftoids who don't understand economics, and so they probably just fudge the numbers and don't understand how debt operates. It is worth noting that the Sri Lankan government's ruling coalition was directly tied until its collapse a few days ago. Now it's basically defunct. I don't know if Sri Lanka counts as an entity that has statehood at this point. Was partnered directly with the Chinese government, which is openly and avowedly communistic. Now, I know that part of that's just in name, but, the tie does matter. There are some people blaming capitalism for what happened in Sri Lanka. Yes, capitalism, the concept of free trade and free markets and private individuals owning the means of production and not getting fucked around by the state is perfectly commensurate with wide sweeping regulations to force huge sectors of your economy to do business in only a certain way and only with certain entities, preferable trade with a foreign country to the exclusion of others because of your regulatory system, and massive debt spending. That's exactly what capitalism means. No, time and time again, Venezuela, South Africa, to an extent, certainly Sri Lanka, it's socialism. Leftoidism fails economically. It promises a lot, it promises to uplift people, but it can only do so by parasitizing production and centralizing things, thus leading to more corruption. This is what we need to avoid, and this is why the WEF tried to quietly disappear this story, because it is a self-satire of leftism and of globalism. And that is the future of other countries if they go along with the World Economic Forum's proposals as well. That's about all. Peace out.